Wonderful. Okay. So today we'll be covering things like managing your debtors and your creditors and how it affects your business as a whole, getting reporting and statistic information out of the system in order to help you maintain those figures. Companies often want to know at frequent intervals how their debtors and creditors are going, how much the debtors owe you or how much you owe your creditors. This often forms the basis on budget and what a company can or can't afford. This is why it's very important to keep on top of this information, to know where each area stands in order to be able to run the business smoothly. Keeping on top of the cash flow of the business ensures the business stays afloat. So this is what we'll be covering today, managing your debtors and your creditors with various reporting and statistical information. We all know that debtors are our customers that have purchased goods from us, oftentimes on account, and therefore still owe the business the value of the goods. The value of the goods must be paid for, and ideally on time. The same goes for creditors. We need to pay them for the goods that are ordered, ideally on time. Alongside this, we need to keep up to date with what is due, both by debtors and creditors. So to start with, we'll have a look at an overview of the system called Management Information Utility. As you can see here, it's got an overview of the system, including your month-to-date, year-to-date sales turnover, your gross profit and your margin, also including your bank balance and your debtor and creditor balances as well. Down towards the bottom, you'll also see an area called stock statistics, and when you first go into this screen, you'll need to click on this button in order to show these figures. Bear in mind that this area of the system is always going to be live date, live information. So that's an overview of what you would see in your system. So that's just a various statistical information that you can use at any time that you wish. So firstly, we'll cover your debtors side of things. You may or may not be aware of your customer maintenance screen, which gives you the ability to control your customer information. You can put them on stop credit should the need come to it. And the next thing you could do would be to look at your Debtor Inquiry screen. And as you would be well aware, in here you can actually look at the account information of a customer. This is fake data, so please bear that in mind. Showing all your invoices, your receipts, and the aging of it, what period that is currently in. Now, for someone who has authority to do so, you can change your due date should you need to. You do also have the option of using the loyalty system for those customers that are good customers and they pay on time. You can provide discounts, you can provide loyalty for them as well. We won't be covering loyalty as such in this. If you want any more information on that, by all means contact us on training@acr.com.au or on our number 02 4725 2020. Okay, so for debtor reporting, as a general rule, most of the information you can find under your debtors heading and under your reports heading. The first would be your aged trial balance, and to open that, it gives you an overview of your debtor system. Your current aging date will be displayed in this field here as to the last time it was aged. Now, according to the configurations in the system, you can set that to automatically update, or you can update it manually yourself. We can run a summary or a detailed report based on your debtor aging, and I might run a quick version to screen to give you an example. Rather large. but that gives you an overview of your customers, including the last pay date and your balance, including all your other periods as well. So that's one version that you can look at in terms of reporting. You can also run this based on an overdue accounts list. So again, based on the same aging date, you can run this to show any accounts that might be overdue. And again, I'll run a short version to screen. And these are your overdue debtors. You can work off this list for a follow-up, should you choose to do so. There is also a follow-up area in the Debtor Inquiry that you can use for this as well. Okay. You can also see your age trial balance based on archive data. All you'd need to do is change it from current to archive and select the month in numerical format and the year that you're wanting to show, and it will show you information. We can further filter information with these qualifiers down here as well. So for instance, if you only wanted to see only a particular terms code, then you can filter out that information. Okay. When it comes to aging, there is a variety of things you can do. You can set certain customers to certain terms, and then when you run the aging, it will be based on whatever terms that the debtor is on. So you might have some customers with a 7-day terms, you might have some customers with a 30-day terms. Whenever you age it, it will age it based on the terms that they're set at. You also have an area where you can set that up. If you needed more information on that, by all means, contact us on the information provided with email or phone. All right. The next thing available would be an account listing, which gives you an option to actually output debtor information. Would only be based on a 1 month at a time, but you can filter out information. So for instance, if you're wanting to audit a particular debtor, you can output the information that way and consolidate all that information into a spreadsheet. You can also run it based on a detailed and summary report there as well, again based on the same information. So depending on how you want to output it, you can filter that information any which way. You've also got a summary transaction there as well. I'll run a short version to screen to give you an example of that one. Again, as you can see, it's giving you various statistical information based on your customer. So you can play around with that as much as you like. Any questions, by all means, contact us. You've got your statement report, which is a precursor to when you run your statements. And before you run your statements, you can actually run this report to see what information it'll output to save you coming across any errors when you actually do output them. At least you'll be aware of them if they occur. You've got your Debtor Rec, which if it was left to print current, it would do your current information and it would clear it behind the scenes. You can also choose reprint qualified and print your Debtor Rec for a qualified month. As you can see, selecting your reprint qualified gives you the options here to choose, and you can filter information here. And this tick box here, AR export, is another way you can actually output your data and then import it into a spreadsheet. Okay, then you've got unallocated cash receipts report. This is a new report that was added for release to users, and this provides a list of any cash receipts that are put into the system that have not yet been allocated. You can now put this information as well. So as you can see, you've got your information there and what hasn't yet been allocated. Okay. You've also got more options in here. There's an export weekly sales. I'll do a search for it because this is a good feature within the system that you can search for whatever you're looking for. Your export weekly sales will give you firstly your week number and your ISO week number, and the date ranges in here. So it's a way of checking your weeks and checking that you're okay to export it. Once you click on export, it will ask you where to save it, and I'll save an example. As a text file, which means it will be importable into your spreadsheet. I'll save it to the desktop. Okay, so I'll minimize this. So that was saved to the desktop, and as you can see, that's there. So if I open that, I'll open it in Notepad. That is the information that it will output. So the product ID, the product description, weeks 1 to 7, short quantities, etc. So again, you can play around with information like that as well. And it's exportable only, so you can't import it via this method. But for specific queries, please contact us. Okay. Then you do have your payment allocation, which you'd be aware of, which you can then allocate your payments from your customers to the invoices. Once they're all cleared, they will then not appear on your statements, of course. You do have the option of creating adjustment notes and credits as well for a customer. That could be done through your adjustment notes area, depending on which system you're using. If you're using your invoicing side of things, you would be using your standard credit option. If not, however, you'd be doing it through Purchase Journal. So depending on which area of the system, front end you're using, you would do it a different way. You do then have report generator available for you for customized reports. And there have been a few added in here to give you an example. Now, these are available on our ACR Connect website, so please always come back to the ACR Connect website on a regular basis. We do put our updates on there to show what's being updated in the system, and then we send the email out. So on the website itself, it will show you how to actually set these reports up. Meanwhile, I'll show you a couple of examples. So this report here, percent of outstanding customer balances by period. If I go into edit mode, I'll show you quickly how it's set up. It's showing you your account number, your trading name. It's showing your each account, so your currents and period 1 to 4, divided by your balance times 100. So it's your percent of outstanding customer balances by your period. So I'll run that to screen to show you an example. So as you can see, it's showing your accounts and the percent of your outstanding balance broken down. Okay, the next one I'll show you is your top 10 customers by amount. So if we do a search for top 10 customers by amount, and that's the one that we're after. And if we look in edit mode, we're looking at the account number, the trading name, and quite simply a breakdown of your customer setup. So if we run a version of that to screen, it will be similar to your age trial balance, but it's actually looking for customers that do not have a zero balance. So any customer that actually has a balance on their account. Okay, I'm aware there will be questions going on in your head, but you can always have a look at the ACR Connect website and have a look at the detail on that, and feel free to contact us at any time. The third report that we could look at here is your top 10 customers by percent of outstanding balance in period 4. So let's go into edit mode for that. So it's taking, again, your current period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, dividing by your account balance and timesing that by 100. Again, that's looking for any account balance that isn't 0, so any account balance that has a positive figure. And I'll run a version of that to screen. Now, I am aware I'm going fast on this one, but it's really just an overview at this stage. And the point is to experiment with these two, find what you find works best for you. Okay. So that's a few reports on debtors that you can look at in the system. If there's any other questions you might have, you can ask them at the end of the webinar or give us a call. We might now move on to creditors. Okay, so creditors. We've got your supplier maintenance screen, which you can use to maintain your creditors as well. That's pretty simple when it comes down to it. You can put your settlement discounts in there should you wish to. You've got an area for rebates as well. Any specific queries on that one, just come back to us. Okay, and then you've got your Creditor Inquiry. So again, your creditors has a specific section in the system as well. Looking at your Creditor Inquiry, just a random sample. Again, shows all the information on it and the breakdown of the periods that they're set in at the moment. For those users that have the authority, again, you can change a due date on any particular transaction in here. And you do have the breakdown, like in your Debtor Inquiry here as well, your account balance, current, and periods 1 to 4. Okay. The other option is you can also print these screens. Whether you're aware of that, I'm not sure. But you can actually print a report. As opposed to looking at it on screen, you can just print it out right there. Okay, so when it comes to your creditor system, you can set it so that when you do a stock receipt, for example, you can set it to automatically do a purchase journal. Everything else you'd need to manually do it. You do also have the option of not having it automatically do a purchase journal, and if you want to, if you choose to, you can do them manually. In any case, either way, doing a purchase journal, you'd go into purchase journal entry, enter the information in, make sure the proof is 0, otherwise if it's not going to balance it won't accept it, and then put that into the system. You do have the option of printing a purchase journal report, of course in your reports section. Now in here you can qualify by your date. Now this date range here is the invoice date. So say for instance you were doing a purchase journal, you were trying to do a report for any invoices with a date between, the 1st of April to the 30th of April as an example. You wouldn't put in the debtor date, you would put in the date that was actually on the invoice itself. That's how this is qualified. Then you've also got the option of the invoice number and the supplier number range in there as well. Pretty self-explanatory with that. Okay, and again, you've got your age trial balance with the same options you would have on your debtors. So your detailed or summary report, which you can print out, your aging date as well. You can also manually age your debtors and creditors in these screens by selecting, well, whether you want a report of it or not, it's up to you, but you can select no report if you're just wanting to age them, and then you'd select as per aging date. This option here actually ages your date, ages your information when you run the report. Again, you've got an overdue accounts list, which you can run for any creditors that you're overdue to. You've got your archive option as well, and also include 0 balances. So if you're looking for creditors where they have a 0 balance, even though you might owe something to them, same with debtors, then you can select that option as well. Okay, you've also got your Creditor Rec. Again, if I left it on print current, it would do the current information. And I've also got a reprint qualified option, which is essentially the same as the last one, which you can qualify and then print out. Okay, we've also got a couple of new options added to Release 2, which is your stock receipts report by supplier and by receipt. These will output any stock receipts in report format via either of these options that you select. So obviously that would be by your receipt number, and that will be by your supplier number. We might run a version to screen, and I might run it by supplier. You can choose to not qualify this screen, which will output all information, but if you've got a lot of data in there, I do suggest that you do limit it by, even if it's just one of the ranges. You can also include your cancelled orders. It used to be that this would include the cancelled orders, but it was decided to actually put that in there to qualify the difference. So if we generate that, okay. So as you can see, that's giving you your supplier number, your invoice number, your date, all of the information that you'd need to have a look at, including barcodes, receipted quantities, costs, and your line extension. So it's a report that gives you information based on your stock receipts as well. It can be very handy if you're looking for a particular stock receipt. Now bear in mind this is based on your stock receipt as opposed to a delivery docket. A delivery docket doesn't create a purchase journal behind the scenes, so it's based essentially on your purchase journal information and the liability that's put in there because of that. Okay, there is an area in the system called auto payments, which is used to basically open up a screen of all suppliers that might be due. You might want to qualify in here any suppliers that might be due up to a certain date. So for instance, if you're looking for any creditors you need to pay that were due up until today, for instance, you can qualify this by the 15th of April as an example, which will show you any creditors that are due up to today. If you wanted to reduce that to maybe the 30th of March or something around that, then you can qualify that by the 30th of March. This is 2010 year, which is a bad example, but this will give information to me which means that anything due up until that date, anything after that date, so anything after the 30th of March or before the 15th of April will not be actually coming up on screen as being due. If you have more than one bank system, it will ask you which bank system you want to apply. If we click Generate, this will open up a screen, and the ticks on the left, as you can see next to these specific creditors, mean that there are things that are due. So you can, as an overview, scroll through this list and see the creditors that have something due in that period that you've specified. Now, as you can no doubt see, if I click on one of those creditors, it will list the information in terms of transactions that are due, and it will automatically tick anything in this bottom section that it believes should be paid. So as you can see, it's ticking all of those because the system is saying it needs to be paid, obviously going off the invoice date, accordingly the due date as well. It will also show a discount percent available if it applies to that creditor as well. You can choose to take it off or not. Okay, so you can do some manual adjustments in here and get the total payable figure to what you're wanting to pay before you process anything. The important thing to note about this, firstly, is that there is an area in the creditor file where you can set the creditor to either be a check or direct debit, direct credit I should say. If they're not set to either of those, for instance, if a creditor is set to none in your banking section in the supplier file, it will never appear in here. So a creditor needs to be set in order to appear in here. So once you've got your total payable to where you need to go, you can then start on the left here, print your report, check requisition if you need to, then you do your remittance advices, and you must do all of these before you process the batch, otherwise you'll lose the opportunity to do the report. Once they're all set, you can then click process. Now if you try and quit out of here, it will essentially park the batch, so it's advised not to. What you'd need to do is void the batch, which will clear the information out of the system ready for a new batch to be loaded. So when it says permanently deletes the above selections, it won't delete the information from the system, it will just clear the batch out. Okay. Again, you've got your payment allocation section in here as well, and that will take all your payments and all the transactions for the creditor, and it gives you the opportunity to actually allocate them off. Okay. Lastly, we have an area called the profile system. Okay. It's actually called Profile Inquiry. And this is an invaluable tool when it comes to getting statistical information. As you can see by the profile area here, you can choose between these different options as to what to base the information on. So say for instance I wanted to look at customer information, I will select customer there. Now if I'm looking for a specific customer, I can then put in the customer number there. However, if I wanted an overview, I'll just leave it blank. You can choose over here whether you want it based on your units sold, your sales dollars, which is by default what people want to use, your dollar gross profit, or your gross margin on your sales. So if we leave it at sales dollars, and down in here we've got a mode, if we leave that at single and then click the find button, it will then come up with information based on those customers. So as you scroll down, you can see the different totals and each month a breakdown of those sales dollars as well. You can also sort by the total of any column that you wish. Clicking it twice will sort it in descending order, and you can do the same with these as well. So as you can see, it's a valuable tool in terms of getting statistical information. The other side to this is your comparative mode. Now what this will do is this will give you a comparison between your dollars or your variance, depending on which one you choose, between this year and your last year and the difference between them. So if I choose dollar variance, it will again ask me to refresh the information, so I'll say yes to that. And as you can see, it's again sortable by your dollar value. So you can see 2 years in comparison with the difference between them. So you can choose the year that you want down here as well. Also, you have an option to actually dump this information. So that is essentially another way of saying export the information. So if you've gotten this screen and you go, okay, I want to output this information to an Excel spreadsheet, and bearing in mind it's not showing just the 1 month comparison, it's showing the whole year as you scroll back through, you can dump that information by clicking on the File Dump button. It will ask you where you want to save it. So by clicking on this little button here, it'll again bring up a prompt, and again I'll save something to the desktop. Okay, and save that. It's then put the file name and the location into that little box. It doesn't matter where you save it, you can save it wherever you like. And click on Create. File created successfully. And I'll just quickly go to my documents, and there it is. So again, we can open that in Notepad, giving you lots of different information in there that you can manipulate whichever way you like. Okay, so that's about it. If you have any questions, by all means let us know at this point. Otherwise, you can contact us at any time.